Nikola Tesla held over 300 patents. He invented alternating current and laid the groundwork for radio, X-rays, and remote control. But by the end of his life, he had almost no money, no family, and lived alone on the 33rd floor of the New Yorker hotel, where he spent hours feeding pigeons. He even claimed that one of those pigeons was the love of his life. This is not just a sad story. It is a pattern that appears again and again. Brilliant minds that burn so brightly they consume themselves. The curse of genius is not a myth. It is a documented cost that comes with extreme cognitive gifts. I like to romanticize the idea of the lone genius. We picture the eureka moment where a light bulb goes off and the world changes forever. But we rarely look at the heat that light bulb generates. When a brain is wired to see patterns that no one else can see, it often loses the ability to filter out the noise that everyone else ignores. For people like Tesla, the world is not a quiet place. It is a constant, deafening storm of data, sensory input, and ideas that demand to be built. That level of brilliance is not a gift you just carry. It is something that carries you. So let's look at the specific ways this curse shows up. There are a few patterns that come up again and again, and they can help us understand why genius often comes with such a heavy cost. Number 1, the cost of being right too early. Tesla did not just invent things, he saw a future that did not exist yet. When he proposed the idea of a global wireless communication system in 1900, people thought he was losing his mind. He spent his life savings and his reputation on the Wardenclyffe Tower trying to give the world free energy. While his rival Thomas Edison was focused on what he could sell today, Tesla was focused on what the world needed a century later. This is the first part of the curse. When you see the finish line while everyone else is still looking for their shoes, you do not look like a leader. You look like a crazy person. You spend your life in a state of constant frustration because the world is too slow to understand what you are trying to give it. Number 2, the hyperbrain and the hyperbody. Psychologists who study high intelligence often point to something called overexcitability. It is the idea that a genius-level brain is not just faster, it is more sensitive. Imagine if your sense of hearing was 10 times sharper than it is right now. You would hear the refrigerator humming like a jet engine. You would hear your own blood pumping. For many geniuses, this is their reality. Their nervous system is turned up to maximum volume. This is why Tesla had such intense obsessions and compulsions. He was terrified of germs. He had to have 18 napkins on his table. He had to walk around a building 3 times before entering. These were not just quirks. They were the defense mechanisms of a brain that was being overwhelmed by the world. When you can see everything, you have to find ways to control something. Number 3, the isolation of the upper tail. If you have an IQ of 130, you are smarter than 98% of the population. But if you have an IQ of 180, you are essentially living on a different planet. Communication becomes difficult because the logical leaps you take are invisible to everyone else. You say C, but you already processed A and B in a millisecond. People look at you and see someone who is arrogant or cold, but you are just lonely. You can see this in the life of Alan Turing. He broke the Enigma code and effectively saved millions of lives during World War II. But because his mind did not fit the social or legal molds of his time, he was persecuted. He was a man who understood the fundamental language of the universe, but could not find a way to exist safely among his own species. The more you know about the world, the harder it is to fit into it. Number 4, the thin line between pattern and paranoia. Genius is often defined as the ability to see connections where others see chaos. But that same mechanism is what drives mental illness. John Nash, the Nobel Prize-winning mathematician, revolutionized economics with game theory. But that same ability to find hidden structures eventually led him into a world of delusions and schizophrenia. He started seeing secret messages in newspapers. He thought he was being hunted by the government. This is the terrifying trade-off of the brilliant mind. The part of the brain that finds the beautiful mathematical proof is the same part that builds the conspiracy theory. When you are hardwired to never accept that something is a coincidence, you eventually stop believing in accidents altogether. Every shadow starts to look like a sign. Number 5, the heavy price of obsession. To change the world, you have to be obsessed. You have to be able to look at a canvas like Vincent van Gogh and see colors that no one else sees. You have to be willing to starve, to lose sleep, and to push your body to the breaking point. Van Gogh painted over 2,000 works in just 10 years. He was a furnace of creativity. And he burned through his own life to do it. He suffered from episodes of deep depression and hallucinations, eventually taking his own life at 37. We have his masterpieces on our walls now, but he never got to feel the warmth of that success. He gave us the stars, but he lived in the dark. We benefit from the product of the obsession, but the person who owns the obsession is often destroyed by it. Number 6, the societal exploitation. As a culture, we are very good at taking what a genius produces and very bad at taking care of the genius themselves. We want the smartphone, but we do not want to deal with the person who is too socially anxious to leave their house. We want the scientific breakthrough, but we do not want to fund the person who seems difficult to work with. Tesla died alone because he was no longer useful to the people who wanted to profit from his ideas. Once the patents were settled and the machines were built, the man was an inconvenience. We treat brilliance like a natural resource to be mined, rather than a human being to be nurtured. We wait for them to die before we build the statues. There is a reason we call it a curse. It is the weight of knowing too much and feeling too much at the same time. If you have ever felt like an outsider, or if you have ever struggled with a mind that will not stop spinning, you have felt a shadow of this. It is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that your machinery is powerful. The world needs people who see things differently, but the world is also a very harsh place for them. Maybe the goal is not just to celebrate the things they build, but to be a little bit kinder to the people who are building them. They are often carrying a burden they never asked for, just so the rest of us can live in a future they saw first.